Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the IBD and Ostomy Support Show. I'm Louise. We are showing every Thursday, 8 until 9. This evening, we are talking about open wounds, and we are sharing your stories that you've also been great sharing. And we're also talking about if you've still got your large bowel left in, about mucus movements. Unfortunately, Rachel's unable to join us this evening. She is currently in hospital with a kidney infection. So if you wish to check on Rachel and see how she is, then please message her at Rock and Two Stomers, and I'm sure she'll get back to you. But at the moment, she just needs some rest. So I'm at Crohn's Fighting this week. What have I been doing? Oh yeah, I went and had something really naughty done on Monday. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see what I had done. I have hospital tomorrow, and if I can find it, I've been playing with kitties. See? Say meow. Say hi, Rivio. I'm going to put him down now. He's going to be chewing my feet for the whole episode. So I'll pass you over to the other girls.
Go on, Nat. You weren't here last week. Go on.
Okay. Hi, it's Natalie, the Spoonie Mummy. My week has been... It's been good, actually. We had a really good weekend. We were at Steve's. The boys had Friday off as well as Monday. So we did a long weekend there. What else have I done? It's been a bit boring, really, a bit slow. Lots of cleaning. Got hospital tomorrow. I'm being referred to the orthopaedic people to see about my knee that keeps getting locked. It may be a replacement job, but we'll see what they say. And that's about it, I think. Blood tests done. Blood pressure checked. My blood pressure apparently is a little bit high. Maybe because I was getting stressed at the kids before we went in, but we'll see when I next get it checked. But yeah. Other than that, not a lot.
I'm Steffi at Colitis to Ostomy. I, again, have had a pretty boring week. I've done blog posts. I named Louise's cat because I'm a huge Peter Pan fan. I had my 32-week scan on Tuesday. Baby Button currently weighs £4 4 ounces. And they apparently put on like half a pound a week. So we're looking at £7, which is bigger than Rara. Signed my C-section forms and other bits, and that's about it, really.
Check you out. Oh, you got some baby stuff in the post as well yesterday, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did. Louise sent me some baby bits. They're all up in the nursery now. So, all on display.
Yay. So what did we want to do first? Did we want to do the wound management, or shall we do the mucus and then do the...
Let's get the mucus out of the way, because there's not going to be as much, I'd like to think.
Who wants to go first on that one?
I don't mind.
You go first.
I had no idea when I had my operation that was going to happen. I actually like almost properly pooed after I got told the day before I was having the surgery. So that night, it was about midnight, and I ended up on the toilet, as I had obviously been. I was completely flaring and in a state. And I took my last poo selfie on the toilet. And then after my operation, I was completely gutted because I went to the toilet again, and I was just like, no, it's just not my last poo selfie. But yeah, obviously, we was going to the toilet and this stuff was coming out, and I was in a complete state thinking something was wrong. And then they explained that obviously my large bowel, I've still got it. It still works to produces mucus that would normally flush out your poo. But obviously there's no poo there anymore, so it just comes out. But I've been having issues with mine lately. It was always sort of really regular and fine, and now it's started to get very solid. I don't know whether it's because of the flare or what's going on, but yeah, it's causing quite a few issues pain-wise, and making me feel like I need to go to the toilet all the time, which isn't very nice.
No, because the urge, it makes you come all over funny, doesn't it? You get the chills, you get sweaty, you feel
sick. Yeah.
And then you just you know that you can't go far from the toilet because you'd rather stay indoors and wait to go on the toilet than have it happen to you whilst you're out.
Exactly. And it's happened a couple of times. It always tends to be the case of where it's like you've got to go on the school run or something, and I'm there stuck on the toilet like, oh, I need to get going, else I'm going to be late for the kids. But
yeah, because you can't really control how it comes out either, can you? You just literally get the urge and you've got to go. It's not like when you can't really hold it in.
No. And I've been having to wear pads and stuff because sometimes it does just leak.
I did.
Very nice.
I did, because you guys know, don't you, back in the January that I had issues, and I've got diversion colitis, which is where when they do your surgery and they perform your ileostomy, if you've still got your large bowel left in there, there's a couple of things that can happen. You get the normal mucus, you can have a flare if you've got Crohn's, or 3, you can get diversion colitis, and where you've not got the normal body fats and the food and everything going through, it flares, the diversion colitis mimics a Crohn's flare, and you normally have to go in and have a sigmoid sigmoid ostomy done for them to test and take the biopsies to check to see whether it's diversion colitis or whether it is actually Crohn's. So I've had that done. They've offered me enemas, but I'm still dealing with it at the moment. The blood stopped, so yay. But yeah, it's not fun, and it is something that they don't tell you. And I remember the first ileostomy I had back in 2009, about 6 weeks after the surgery. It's actually going up on my blog tomorrow about that bit. And I did actually think I was dying because they didn't tell me that would happen. And I was like, but why can I still poo? Why is it still going through me?
See, one of my stoma nurses, because I have 2, was like, oh, you may feel like you need to go for a poo. You get the urge. And then she was like, well, go sit on the toilet because you may pass something. And I'm thinking, I don't have a temporary ileostomy. What the hell? It's all gone. It's disconnected. But apparently, some people still get that, even though everything's completely, they've got permanent. And I'm like, I don't understand how that can physically happen. It hasn't happened to me, but I do get that horrible urge. But for me, it's not like needing to go for a poop. It's gas. It feels like I have trapped wind. So, but I know a lot of people do with temporary ileostomy suffer it, but mine's permanent. There's no going back, thankfully.
The problem I've got is my ileostomy is permanent, but until the vedolizumab at some way gets the microscopic under control, I can't have the total colectomy done. There's too much danger of me developing fistulas and everything after the surgery through having a Barbie butt whilst it's all still in there. So I've got to wait, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the vedolizumab works. I know it's working in some things. I'm losing my hair again, so yay. But
methotrexate used to make me have really thin hair and lose hair.
Yeah, it makes me lose. Not masses, but it's definitely thins mine out.
Mine's thin to begin with. I swear, it was really, you could see so much of my scalp through my hair. It was horrible. So I'm glad I don't need immunosuppressants anymore. So.
But I mean, for any of those of you with the mucus, if you do worry about it, if you go into the support groups, they will tell you it is perfectly normal. However, what isn't normal is if you get blood in there, or if you're getting pain and you're getting the urge and nothing's coming out, because sometimes it does go hard, and they have to teach you how to is it irrigate it out? Because I think that's what
colostomies irrigate. I don't know about anything else.
Well, that's what they do with the enemas, though, isn't it? The enemas flush it out.
Yeah, but I think irrigation is very different to enemas.
No, because I know Rachel was saying something about she has to do irrigation, but obviously Rachel's not on tonight because she's in hospital. She was saying to us about it last week. So I don't know. For those that wish to know, talk to your consultant and ask. But we're also covering open wounds this evening as well. Now, open wounds can happen with anything, regardless of the surgery that you've had done. However, the people that have contacted us this week, some of the wounds that they've got, I'm not shy. I've had an open wound, and I've had it from here down to hip to navel. And I had a vac machine attached to me for 5 months, a biological mesh stuck on the inside because they removed my stomach muscles, and then had to have that done. At the time when I had the wound, about 6 to 7 weeks after having the surgery done, what happens sometimes is the wound tissue grows, so you form new tissue, but it goes all slothy and it dies because it's got nothing to attach itself to. So I had to have mine debrided. Now, debridement, you've got several issues for that. They take you back down to theatre and do it that way, or there's another thing that they can use that's in my blog. I'm not going to say that on here because if people are watching, this is not always something that they want to hear, but that's the particular reason as to why I threw a water jug at my consultant at the time. Or the other option is when I had mine debrided, because the amount of anaesthetic I'd had endured, I've been down and had like 14 operations in the space of 2 weeks. I actually winged mine on gas and air, so I let them delve about in my abdominal cavity for an hour whilst I was laying on my bed, and had them debride and take out all the dead tissue. And I thought I was drum and bassing on gas and air. That stuff is good. Mind you, I think I had that many other drugs going through my system at the time. I couldn't have cared. But thank you to so many of you that did come to us and share your stories. We have now started on a weekly basis, and with the show, we are sharing the viewers' stories for you to have a look and to see. And if you wish to contact them, the majority of them, we have put their names on there. Or if you inbox us at the IBD and Ostomy Support Show, we can send the message onto that person. They can contact you directly. So we've done that. The people that come to us this week, 86% said yes, they've got an open wound or they've had an open wound, and 9% said no. But I think it's really weird that the amount of people, like sort of within the IBD world, that have ended up with open wounds.
Fistulas are an open wound. Barbie bums are an open wound. If you have like the drainage hole is classed as an open wound. I spoke to one lady who had 1 centimetre below her stoma, I hope to God I'm going to get this measurements right. I can't do measurements to save my life. 16 centimetres wide, long, and 6 centimetres deep, and then like 6 centimetres that way. And that was due to sepsis. They just needed to use it as a drainage to get her sepsis out. And she said she got told it would take months to heal. She got like daily packing from district nurses for 4 months, I think she said. She let me share her story on the page, so that's scheduled for later on this evening. There is a picture with that, but it's probably one of the larger ones I've seen. But the open wounds can be classed as anything. My first surgery was open wound surgery, so I was cut down about 10 inches from above my stomach to my pubic bone, and mine split open twice from infection. I had E. coli and I got God knows what else. But then again, one of the reasons it split open was because I decided, even though I had a dressing on and my wound was still open, I was going to go swimming in the sea, which isn't the best idea, especially this far north with the North Sea. But I had my Barbie bum basically bled for weeks heavily, and they couldn't understand why, because it shouldn't have been bleeding as much as it was. But I didn't need people to come and pack it for me, thankfully. But there are a lot of women and men that seem to get fistulas ridiculously easy from if they've had a temporary ileostomy and stuff. And I couldn't imagine what it's like having a fistula.
Fistulas aren't pleasant. I've had one. I was just very lucky when mine come out. Mine actually come out through my belly button. I think it's called it's an intracranial umbilicus fistula, it's called. So they could never quite pinpoint where it was in the bowel because it went through so much of it. That's why I had so much removed. when my bowel perforated the first time. It's not fun. I think that the correct way of describing it would be like blowing a house through a straw is what it feels like having a fistula, because the majority of fistulas where they're attached to, feces comes out through that as well. And at that time, when I had the fistula before having the stoma, I used to actually wear a stoma bag on my tummy to catch the feces coming out of the fistula, because it still irritates the skin. It's like having an ileostomy or a colostomy. It's exactly the same thing.
You don't even need to have a stoma to get a fistula. My friend basically, he told me last year that he's got a J pouch. We met randomly through a friend, and he had ulcerative colitis, and he had a J pouch from about 14, I think, maybe younger. And he's got a fistula that comes out through I think he said his back, and he said it's really trippy if his t-shirt doesn't cover it and he gets the wind. And he said that was really creepy, and I hope he doesn't mind that I mentioned it, but I didn't exactly use his proper name. But I know a lot of women are on the support groups at the moment saying that they've had fistulas coming through their vagina, because obviously they have Crohn's, or they have other issues as well. And that must be, my heart goes out to them, because I couldn't imagine.
I think it is awful, because I think my consultant, when my consultant explained a fistula to me, he said what it is where the disease eats away at your bowel, it eats away at the tissue, so it makes your bowel very thin. But what it does, when the bowel can't cope, it develops scar tissue, and it forms into a fistula, and that fistula has to find an outlet. So that can either be through your vagina, through your anus, it can come out on your lower back. Basically, you can get a fistula anywhere, regardless of the type of IBD that you have. It can come out anywhere. It can come out anywhere across the abdominal area down. But I think they find fistulas difficult to treat, because I know I had mine for 7 years.
They're often shown on embarrassing bodies to try and highlight how common they actually are. A lot of people went into like the embarrassing bodies trucks to see the doctors, and they're like, that's a fistula. And I'd never heard of a fistula until I'd seen it on, about 5 years ago, I think, the first time I heard of a fistula.
So like you said, I thank myself lucky that I only had the one, because there's some people that have come to us and they've got more than one, they've got several.
Mm-hmm.
And that can't be
I
good.
know people with several,
because the pain that it causes as well, it causes as much pain as the actual condition as well. So I do feel for those people. It's not nice having one of those. And I think you find as well, when you have a fistula, depending on where it is, when you're female as well, that the time of the month exacerbates it as well. It makes it worse. It's the same as like our time of the month and having an ileostomy, and it exacerbates it, and we get watery output, and it's swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's always exacerbated my Crohn's, so I can imagine it goes along with everything.
It's not good. I mean, I had one lady come to me. She's not really had a clear diagnosis, to be perfectly honest with you. If you wish to contact her, she's at Becca Knights on Instagram. She had her ileostomy surgery in October of 2016, and then she had her stoma recited in the January of this year due to a spider web of fistulas around her original stoma. She said to me at the time, the surgeon didn't advise that the fistulas could have happened, which I don't get, because I think most of us, was you told that having the surgery could increase the risk of fistulization?
Nope.
No. Oh, my surgeon did, but that might have been because I've had them before. She had to have the stoma recited because the fistulas were strangling the original stoma site and the stoma. And since having the surgery in January, she's had to contend with open abscess wounds around the stoma. Now, if you wish to see the pictures, they are on the page, but just to warn you guys that some of the pictures that we have posted are of open wounds and could be considered graphic if you've never seen one. So I will issue the warning, but at the same time, these people's stories need to be shared, and it's, you know, if others are having, so I'm ever so sorry, I've got a kitten and it's currently trying to do Spider-Man up my back. So be warned, some of the pictures are graphic. However, if you've had an open wound, then, or you are struggling with anything with regards to fistulization or anything, then obviously contact these people and you can all have a chat and get together and sort that out. But anyway, she's had the abscess wounds for the last 4 months. She's actually had the abscesses drained, cut down into, and they're now being covered by just a plain dressing, but it's causing issues with her stoma and having bag leaks because of where they're situated. They are literally on either side of her stoma, and she can't always get a clean seal put in the bag on. She also, the consultants also believe that she has pyoderma gangrenous, I'm trying to say it now, gangrenous. Yeah, but she has yet to be given the official diagnosis. However, they believe that the condition may be causing the abscesses that she has around her stoma, as well as the fistulization, and she's now got abscesses that are appearing on her legs. Now, as you know, Crohn's and UC is common for getting abscesses in general. I get them on my tummy, especially along my surgery line. I have them coming up, so there's old hair follicles or stitches that have been left in there. I develop abscesses and I've had to have them scraped back down to muscle and then have them burnt out with nitrate and then pack them and leave them to heal. And it's the same when I've had the boils or the abscesses along my scar line. I normally, once they've popped, I go and see the district nurse and I have to pack it with iodine for 4 weeks, iodine stripping, and just put a dressing on it. So they do heal, but they leave little scars.
Yeah,
I've not had any of them.
And he said I'll share his story as well, so you can read it, but between 2011 and 2015, he had 13 perianal abscesses as a result of active Crohn's, which all required surgery to sort of sort out, which was just like in 4 years, he must have just gone through hell.
You poor thing, that's not nice.
No, but he has had a few since, he says, but luckily now he knows the signs and has got straight to the doctors, and antibiotics have stopped it getting that far. But yeah, for 4 years he went through a pretty bad time with that.
I feel for him. That's not nice at all. Abscesses aren't fun in the least, and to have that many as well. Sorry.
Okay.
I had one lady talk to me about her wounds. She had a nearly ostomy first, if I remember rightly, and then she had it reversed, and she's in the last year had a stoma like a permanent stoma fitted, and she's had fistulas which have caused her to have no like skin by her like around her Barbie bum and wound, and they just don't want to heal. One's on its way to healing, but the other one just doesn't want to heal at all. She said she wasn't told about any of that, how long the wound would take to heal, how long it's taking. She's been told that it needs to heal naturally. She's using, is it Sorbsan ribbons? I've never heard of them personally before, but I'm presuming it must be like an absorbent ribbon, because she had been using sanitary towels because they were just leaking constantly for weeks. So obviously the Sorbsan stuff must be better for her than obviously the sanitary towels. But she's, from what I can gather, she's not particularly happy that it's taking as long as it is. Luckily, she seems to still be she's really positive and she's really active in all the other groups. that I'm in, and which is nice that she can still be positive for other people, even when she's having a hard time. But has anyone else dealt with like sobs and ribbons?
I've not heard of those before.
No, when once they removed the vac machine off of me, which if you've ever had a vac machine, I feel your pain, because once the wound starts closing up, but it needs to lift up as well as close in for them before they can remove the backpacking and go to normal dressings. It has to be at a certain level. And they used to pack me with silver Aquacel, and then there was another thing that they put in there. For the life of me, I can't even remember what it is now. And then what they'd do is they'd put the vac dressing on and they'd push that down, and what they do is they then stick the dressing over, they cut a little hole and put the tube through, and then they press the vac machine and everything just sucks in. It's a really weird thing to watch, but you can feel it happening as well. Now, when I can handle pain, I really can handle pain. It's obscene the amount of pain I can handle. However, when you've got somebody rummaging about in your tummy, is what it feels like, and you're having what happens is dependent on the depth of the wound and everything else, is dependent on how often they change the dressings. But what happens is they wet the foam that they put in, and what happens is in time when the vac machine draws the exudate out, which obviously keeps the area dry to aid the healing, the sponge goes dry, and of course what it does is it sticks to the wet bits on the outside of the wound. And you know what it's like ripping a plaster off of normal skin? Well, that is like, oh, I think the only way of describing it is like feeling like you're on fire when you're having that ripped out, because it sticks. And yeah, I used to dose myself up on OxyContin and Oxynorm before they come to change my dressings, or else I'd scream because it hurt. But it's each to their own. Some people can handle it, other people can't. But if you are using the vac machine, is a wonderful bit of technology, because it halves the process of the healing before you go through for the wound. I mean, I've got one lady, Kay had open surgery in March of 2016, and she had emergency surgery because same situation as me. She contacted septicemia and fecal peritonitis, and they had to leave her open. She had an ileostomy formed at the same time. Hers was because of, can Steffi say the D word because I can't say it?
Diverticulitis.
Yes, diverticulitis. That's the one. And that's why she had the ileostomy formed, and then she had the vac machine to aid the closure of the open wound more quickly. Kay's wound is now 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters and is healing very well. She's currently using, she even gave me a list of what she was using for her dressings and how the team are dealing with it. And she's using NA viscose knitted dressing, a Terra cortrial ointment, and Medi-Honey to put on the newly formed and healed skin on the outside of the wound, because it stops it from cracking and splitting. It keeps, because the scar tissue, if you've had an open wound, when the new skin forms over the top, it's quite thin and you have to protect it because it can split. It's also prone to infections as well, because when mine healed, I had a tiny little part down at the bottom where I kept having reoccurring sores, and it kept opening back up. It's half the reason why I had the plastics done, and they had to cut that all out when they went back in and did the abnoplasty. But she secures the packing with a Zevit pad and hydrofilm, and she's due to see her surgeon in September this year to discuss the option for plastic surgery to repair the open wounds. And they can do that when it, dependent on the severity of the open wound, they offer you plastics once it's healed, but you'd have to speak to your surgeon because it depends on the case. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you do have a stoma, you can have plastic surgery, but there's not a no against it. But dependent on how it would affect the stoma and stuff, obviously would be down to your surgeon to let you know whether or not you'd qualify to have the plastics done.
I was told by a plastic surgeon that I'd gone to see for a breast reduction, I think it was, and he was just like saying because he asked me why I was covering my stomach, and and I was like, well, I don't like my scars on my stomach. This was before I had my stoma, and he took a look and he was like, well, if you ever have to have more surgery, if they do it open wound, or if you have another C-section and they want to do it through that wound, let us know and we'll come in and we'll neaten it up. But I don't actually think I give a crap anymore, personally. I did for years, but I'm not bothered by them anymore.
What, by the boobs?
Well, that and my scars. But I've actually Googled what Sorbsan ribbon is for anyone that is interested. It says Sorbsan is made from the calcium salt of alginic acid, prepared as a textile fibre and presented as a loose rope or packing for cavities, a ribbon for narrow wounds or sinuses, and a flat non-woven pad for application to large open wounds. So it is basically an absorbent
strip sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
one of the chaps on the online chat has said that sorbicin is seaweed and it absorbs all the nasty stuff from the open wounds.
That'll be the
yeah.
alginic bit.
I think
then.
my grandma had that on her. She has ulcers on her legs, and she's tried all sorts of different things. And that seaweed one, I didn't know the proper name for it, but the seaweed was.
There's a lady on Making Ostomy's call actually that's having her wound along the bottom of her tummy stuffed with seaweed at the moment because the wound opened up.
Mm-hmm.
The alginic bit makes sense then, because it's like an algae, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I had silver aquacel for my open wounds on from my first surgery, and I just didn't have anything for my Barbie bum. It was just a case of pads and hope that it wouldn't bleed for too long. I think it bled for about 3 weeks, and I had one hospital admission because of it. But then again, I was also dehydrated, scared of drinking, so that didn't help. You're not going to be able to heal if you're not looking after yourself, and I don't think I was for the first couple of weeks because everything terrified me. But I adjusted really quickly to having a stoma. It was just the eating and the drinking side of it. So,
to be honest, I had more open wounds along the bottom. That's why I had abnoplasty again in November, because they'd done all my plastics in 2012 in the January, but I got a wound infection about a week after coming out of hospital. It was starting to brew when I was in hospital. Me being me, I didn't want to go back up to the hospital. So when it busted, I rang my district nurse and she said, yeah, come and see me tomorrow. So I went and saw her, and I had it stuffed with iodine strips, silver aquacel, and then I used to use the Mepafor dressings over the top because I'm allergic to the Tecoderm and stuff that they use for the dressings. It brings me out in blisters. So I went and had that done. But what had happened, where they'd pulled so much down and where all the Crohn's infection and the peritonitis had eaten away, it only left me with a thin layer of skin. It had eaten all the muscle had gone and all the fat had gone. So I just literally had a flat bit with a layer of skin over. And I had to have the abnoplasty again in the November to cover that up, because it was like that from my hip up, and all I had protecting my bladder from my large bowel was a little bit of subcutaneous tissue and some skin. So that's why I had to have my fat bits pulled back down again and sorted.
it's disgusting.
Sorry.
I'm so squeamish. It's unbelievable. I once thought I could work in theatre, and then I thought I could work like in a mortuary, and I was like, when I thought to myself, like, no, I really don't think I could do any of that.
That's okay. I'll be back, but I've just got to dash off because something's going to go bust.
Do you have any more stories than that?
Yeah, I was going to say,
team?
I had a couple of ones that were a bit different, I suppose. One was somebody that contacted me on Instagram called Kai. He was saying that he had been left with an open wound, but his outside healed faster than his inside. So he was actually having to have his outside, I can't remember what he had done. I'm writing it up so you'll be able to read the story properly. But he was basically having to have stuff done to the outside to stop it from healing so fast, so that the inside could heal properly first. So, which I didn't realise could happen.
No, I'd never heard of that. That's really quite interesting.
Yeah, so I think he said in the end it took about 6 weeks. So it healed well, but he was having to have it sort of treated to stop it from going all wrong inside. The other one is my friend, actually, Daniel. He started last year suffering with blood clots, which they discovered, well, they have done lots of tests and different things, and they basically think it's down to his Crohn's that he gets them. But last year he'd got, I think it was 3 in his left leg that were basically blocking one of the main arteries down to his foot. So to try and stop him from losing his leg, they cut basically a slice in his leg from his knee to his ankle, left it open to let the oxygen get to his muscles, because nothing was obviously getting through down to the bottom of his leg and his foot. So he sort of sent me a lot of the stuff that he had to go through. They were sort of having to dress that every other day. He was also on heparin because of the blood clots, obviously trying to thin them. So there was a lot of blood. I have put some photos up, so just another warning. It sort of shows, I've got 3 that sort of shows the progression of the healing. Unfortunately, it didn't work. He had to have his lower left leg amputated in August, but luckily that's healing quite well. And he sort of gave me some information as well about what they used on that. And
I think well, I've not met him, but I think I'm aware of him. I think he's a bit of a tough cookie, didn't he? He turned up to at least the day event at the Purple Wings.
He was there the whole thing.
Yeah, because I remember seeing him at the day event. Yeah,
that was just over 2 weeks, I think, after he'd had it done.
But that's insane. So well done, that man. Just getting on with that.
He did. He's doing really well. He's on his prosthetic now, doing loads of physio and stuff. So he's doing really well.
That's really good.
But
do you have any more stories, Louise?
I do. Sorry, I had to dash off. As I said, my output has been stupid since the surgery. Everything's sort of settled down, and I think my Crohn's has decided to kick back off. So, but I have got one. This one is from Richard. He's got a hole where his bottom used to be, and it's not huge, but it's only a couple of centimeters long, and it's about 3 centimeters deep now, but it's been there for 15 months. It all started when his internal pouch was excised because it failed, and at the same time he had a Barbie butt, or a Ken butt, if we call them for the men. And
no, it's an Action Man butt.
Is it an Action Man butt?
Yeah, because Ken's lame. Most of the guys prefer to be Action Man.
I've not thought of it like that.
No, I haven't either. I know my brothers used to nick my Barbies, so for the Action Men. But anyway, moving on. Will not be crude. So he had his internal pouch excised, and at the same time he had his excess rectum and anus removed, which was a proctectomy. He had 2 wounds, a long one at the front which healed really well, and then an open wound at the back. The initial plan was just to let it heal itself from the inside, no stitches, and it seemed to be going well. He went back to work, and about 6 weeks in it started to ache. Then 4 months or so after the operation, the wound had broken down completely, and he had to go back to the hospital and have it opened up again and have antibiotics to treat that. Then there was a plan in place to treat it using, is it Flaminol gel? I've never used that one, so there's people that are saying things and I'm like, oh, I've never come across that one. So we all learn something new every day. It didn't seem to do much, and he went back into hospital again in July for vac therapy and was in for a week. It seemed to be going well, although he was dismayed to discover when he come out that despite everyone saying how well it was going, it was still 7 centimeters in size. That's not good. He's now under the care of community tissue viability nurses, or as we call them, wound care, or the district nurse. They've tried various dressings and packings, but it's still not behaving. In November, they tried a community negative pressure dressing, a PICO, and it caused a collection to burst out of an old fistula tract. So I'm guessing that could have possibly been what caused the wound in the first place, but there's no definitive on that. He's back in hospital again for IV and antibiotics and an MRI. After all of that, it didn't seem to heal. Daily dressings and a leaking wound, although not painful. So after 11 months, he was referred to plastics, who are having a look. Were at the opinion that, say, a hair or a stitch or a staple or even mucosal tissue had been left behind. And so an exam under anaesthetic was planned. That happened last week. They still haven't come to a definite about what's caused it. They've given him Ortem, or also known as metronidazole, to treat it. So he's been, well, just over a year now of having daily dressings to treat that. And I can imagine that is no pun intended, because of obviously where it is, but it's a pain in the arse. Daily wound dressings aren't fun in the least. If you want to contact him, Richard, you can contact him on Instagram as Dubars, or Richard Harris on Facebook or on Twitter. And he also has a blog where he goes under the pseudonym Gutlistic.
Louise struggles to say that, so you know, she struggles to say the word dick. So apologies, Richard. She's just a soft southerner.
I'm going red now. I can feel my cheeks burning up.
And I really hope the metronidazole is working for him, because they decided that they were going to treat my pouchitis with metronidazole, and that antibiotic did not sit well with me at all. They expected me to be on it for life. You shouldn't be on antibiotics, a specific type of antibiotics, for 3 months, longer than 3 months, before they swap it out. Then you can go back to it. But the gastro I saw was like, oh, you can be on it for life. I'm like, give me a stoma.
No, that metronidazole is bloody awful. And
some people it works amazing for, though. So hopefully
it does work amazing for some people, but I was on metronidazole, mercaptopurine and methotrexate for 3 months in one hit, and it put me back in hospital. It made me as sick as anything, and the consultant said, no, keep trying, keep persevering. So I did as I was told, and I ended back up in hospital for 3 weeks because of it.
That mercaptopurine's horrific as well. I do not deal well with anything anymore.
It's brilliant now, because whenever I go to the GP and they say to me about metronidazole and mercaptopurine, I'm like, I can't take it, I'm intolerant. Give me something penicillin based.
I just get given amoxicillin. It's like, take this, have this.
Amoxicillin.
Except when I'm pregnant, obviously.
Cefalexin is one I'm put on quite a lot.
I get that. I get that one when I'm pregnant.
And what's the big yellow tablets that taste really weird?
Isn't that the metronidazole?
No, I don't think so.
They were always huge yellow ones for me.
They just cause the most awful taste in your mouth when you have those. But they're the three. They normally give me one of those three. I had another story as well, I was going to say, with the whole long-termness of it. Sam was talking to me about her open wounds. She had one a few years ago, which I've sort of put in the post, the first bit, but she's also had another one that she's now had for 5 years. That basically they've just tried everything they can and it just won't heal. So she just has to deal with it on a daily basis. And it's just, to me, it's just horrific. Like, I can't even imagine. She says it does get her down. That they have offered her surgery to try and fix it, but obviously there's just a high risk of it not working, and she could be left in a worse state than she is now.
Is this the lady where they're talking about the skin flap cover? Because
I think you've seen it on my...
Yeah, she had her central abdominal muscles removed as well, didn't she?
Yeah, that was the one when she was 16 as well when she had that done. And they they basically sent her home with a massive gaping wound. And when she finally saw the surgeon a week later, he was like, what on earth have they sent you home for? And got her in that day and had to re-staple her shut. But yeah, she went through hell. And I was just like, I can't believe they did that with a child.
Why did they send her home? Why did they not pack it, dress it?
She was on a vac dressing, I think, she said. Let me just check. I think they sent her home. Yeah, you could literally fit your fist inside the wound in her stomach. She had a vac dressing for a week till the surgeon saw her. He was disgusted at how she'd been sent home, and had to staple it shut that day.
Half the reason they kept me in hospital for 3 months was I had to wait for the tissue to build up and for it to at least have some granulation across the top of the biological mesh before they'd let me out.
Before they go, yeah.
Because that was all that was keeping my bowels in at the time.
And like I say, she was 16. I just think, God. But yeah, like I say, now she's struggling with this. It's actually where she'd had to have, when she was 16, she had the muscles and that removed to repair something on her bum. And it's the graft of that's now opened and is causing her the problems that she's having.
Oh, bless her.
So she has to either dress that day, well, she's doing it daily. If it's particularly oozy or painful, she dresses it properly. Otherwise, she uses pads, just ends up changing her underwear. And
yeah, but if it's oozing, then that's not good, because if it's producing exudate, then there's obviously something else in there underlying for that to be doing that.
I don't know whether that's just the word she used, but it obviously leaks.
Okay.
But yeah, like I said, they've offered her surgery, but she could just end up in a worse situation than she is now. So she's sort of a.
Has she still got the remainder of the open wound on her tummy? I mean, with regards to the scar tissue.
No, she said they sorted that out. Once the surgeon stapled it back up, that healed. She said absolutely fine after that. It was just sort of what she went through to get to that point in the first place. But we just.
At least that's one part of it finished with, even though she's suffering now.
Yeah,
I was just imagining her with at the moment with having an open wound down the front and having an open wound on
the back. Yeah,
the back as well.
But no, that was quite a few years ago when she had that first one, I think.
No, that's fine, because when she was talking to you, I couldn't keep track of all the conversation because she inboxed you, so I could only see so much.
Yeah, it got a bit confusing because we sort of got off of the reply bit, and then she commented underneath, and then it was like. Me trying to write it up today, I was like higgledy-piggledy in bits from everywhere. I think I've just about got it right. It's quite hard. I've never had an open wound, so I've learnt loads this week. But obviously, because I don't know things, I'm just hoping I've sort of typed them up properly and explained things properly.
No, and as the saying goes, we're not medical professionals. We may have, there might have been one or two of us that have had open wounds and sort of know how to treat it, but don't. You always have to see your doctor or see the tissue viability team or the district nurse or the wound team, because they're the only ones that are qualified to deal with it. Don't just go down to Boots and think, oh, you've had an abscess appear on your tummy and I can just stuff it with this. Yeah. Don't do what I do, because I've just been dealing with it that long now. It's a waste of time to go all the way to London from where I live and all the way back.
And abscesses can come at the start of a fistula as well, so they do need checking out.
Yeah, they do. They do need checking. It's difficult because mine started out as an abscess through my belly button before the fistula decided to erupt through it. And yeah, it's not
a lot
easy.
of people with fistulas, if you've just been diagnosed with having one, find the little, like the mini stoma bags that are closed tend to be what a lot of people use. I've seen some of them in support groups using them. You can get the little mini ones.
You mean that tiny little circle thing?
Yeah. A lot of people I've seen are using them. That way you don't have to feel, if you don't have a stoma but you have IBD, and you have a fistula, or if you have a fistula as well as a stoma,
it's called
you don't need a big one.
The little ones are called a stoma cap.
I know some of the girls are using actual mini bags.
Yeah, I think they're quite new. Well, I've only just seen them quite recently.
What, the stoma caps?
No,
the mini bags.
They're like little bags.
Oh, really? I've only ever seen the stoma caps because they sent me home with them the first time around. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Oh no, these are bags. You can either get closed. I think you can get drained ones, but it's predominantly closed. So it's essentially like a small colostomy bag, because colostomy bags aren't drainable as far as I'm aware.
No, that's a good thing that they've got those, because they never had I never knew about those when I had the fistula the first time round. I can tell you, for the first 2 years of having that fistula, before my gastric team took pity on me and ordered me stoma bags, I was using dressings and absorbent wound pads from Boots, and I was spending about £25 a week back then just to cover the fistula, and my tummy was always so sore because it used to burn, and like it does with your ileostomy, it takes the skin off. I used to be in agony. And then 2 years down the line, I went to Malta with my mum for my 21st, and my nan managed to get me some stoma bags from the hospital in Valletta. And then in Valletta, and then when I come back home, I went to the hospital and I said, this is enough. I need something to, there's a lot more coming out of it than what you think. And I ended up with a full-size stoma bag on script. And I used to get one box every 6 weeks to deal with it.
Well, if you had one now, you wouldn't have to suffer with that now. There is other options.
No, it's called being 21 and burying your head in the sand. Don't bury your head in the sand.
It's not worth it. Your health's so much more important than vanity. As hard as that is to believe for some people. I didn't want a stoma purely for vanity when I was 21. And then 8 years later, I ended up with one anyway. I couldn't care less.
Do you know what I can honestly say now, especially since the second surgery in November, any vanity and any body issues that I did have, apart from the fact that I'm just fat, most of my body issues have gone now, because it's permanent now. It can't be changed. You've got to own it and deal with it. I know it's difficult, but I don't have hernias anymore, so yay. But I'm
glad I don't have a hernia.
How have you
having
guys
a hernia
found,
and being pregnant would suck.
How have you guys found the responses this week with the open wound stories?
I've had a lot more interaction with people this week. It's been really good. Like I say, because I've never had an open wound, I have some experience because my grandma's been battling ulcers on her legs for years and tried all sorts of dressings and this, that and the other. But no, it's been really nice to speak to people and sort of hear about the stuff that I didn't know about.
It's nice to hear other people's stories, because some people, even now with open wounds, they won't post pictures. They'll say they have an open wound, but they won't go into the nitty-gritty of it and say anything. So it's been quite an eye-opener this week that so many people have been so open about it. It's nice to see.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the healing process, talking about it anyway. Like Val said, that it was more mentally hard for her because she was so scared of getting sepsis again. The physical side of it wasn't, she knew it was going to heal from what she said, it wasn't. But I think some people really need to talk about it just to get off the chest, and it's a form of counselling at the end of the day, talking to people and in the support groups about things like that. So that's what the support groups are there for. They're not a social group where you can talk about what you watched on TV last night. It's there to help support you through issues you're having. You can make friends with it, and that's great, but
one thing I would say to Val is that I can understand what she's saying. I've had sepsis myself, and it damn well nearly killed me, but you got through it and you're here now. you know, talk on the support groups and sort of, well, she does anyway, doesn't she? Bless her.
She's lovely.
She's lovely, bless her. But we you know, that those that have had sepsis, we've had sepsis, but I'd say with me more than anything, I'm lucky that I'm here now, because I did die several times, and they managed to bring me back. So that's very lucky, because if they didn't, I wouldn't be here right now. So and I wouldn't be annoying everyone on a Thursday night 8 till 9. So it's it's been an eye-opener this week, and it's been lovely that people have been so open about it. And I'm surprised about the amount of young people as well. I know that sounds really ageist, but there's been quite a few young people that have come forward about their open wounds as well, which is good.
Yeah, more likely to be concerned about vanity, I think.
Which is normal, because what do they say? The youth is wasted. Youth is wasted on the young, because by the time you appreciate it, you've lost your youth. You're too old. I know plenty of elderly ladies and men that have just gallivant everywhere. Some of my biggest inspirations have been people I've cared for in the past, and they were all in their 70s and 80s. But it is a hard thing to deal with when you're younger, because society, I hate the ideal society has for men and women and their bodies, and everybody is beautiful, whether you've got
you're always beautiful
amputees or exactly. It doesn't matter if you're missing limbs, or you're missing organs, or you have scars. It doesn't matter.
There's always someone that will find you beautiful, even if you don't find yourself beautiful. There is always someone out there. So
I know, the stupid idiot married me.
So I'm trying to snare that one now.
My double OD.
I had a book on sitting on the bed called The Sentence of Marriage, and he's going to me, "Are you hinting again?" I went, "No, if I was hinting, I'd be going like that."
Well, you kind of did on Instagram, didn't you?
I was going to say, I saw the ring.
Oh no, I was just trying to cause him panic attacks whilst he was driving. Guess I'd have to see him. It was pretty, and it was sparkling. It was in my size.
It was beautiful.
However, if I did get bought a ring that was worth that much money, I would probably lose it. So it's better if you just buy me a 30 quid one and be done with it.
I had a friend who her ex was going to buy one, like it was like a couple of grand, and she was like, "I'm never leaving the house with that on. I will never leave the house with it, because it is too expensive." And I think she was more of a klutz than me. And Stephen wanted to buy me all these expensive ones. I'm like, no, I'm good. Just get me something nice. Get me something pretty. I don't care about the cost. So I just can't wear any of mine. Mine are all too big now. I need to get them resized. So,
well, we're going to start wrapping up in a minute for this evening. For those of you that wish to look at the stories or read the stories, or if you're watching after the live event, they are on the IBD and Ostomy Support Show. I'm pleased to say that we actually had a couple of inbox messages on the IBD and Ostomy Support Show the week that, yay! Yeah. So next week we are covering immunosuppressants and what have you tried. We are rolling polls out for that. There is a rather long list. So bear with us when you answer that one. Please don't add anything to the polls. We also have Richard Harris, aka Gutlistic, joining us to talk about his story and IBD Hour that is hosted on Twitter every third Thursday of the month. Is it every third Thursday of the month?
Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, every third Thursday of the month they have an IBD Hour on Twitter where is it nominated questions?
they have a guest speaker, and I think the guest speaker comes up with the questions. It is very interactive. The topics are all very relevant, and Richard is very involved in that, because one of the ones I joined in on, he commented back to me quite a few times within that, which was nice.
So yeah, Richard will be talking to us about IBDL and about himself. I will have links. We will have links up on the show page for that as well.
And it's Ask Me Anything.
Oh God!
Oh,
dear God in
yeah.
hell!
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
You may be excited. Right, for those of you that wish to be sadistic, aim all the really, really personal questions at the one that come up with the idea. But yes, we also have a Ask Us Anything segment on the show. So please be kind, please be nice, and please be gentle. We're going to say...
And that goes for Richard as well. You can, if you want to ask Richard questions,
you can ask Richard anything.
He's going to answer too.
You can send questions in for everybody. If you inbox us on the relevant platform, so Crohn's Fighting, Colitis to Ostomy, the Spoolie Mummy, Rocking Two Stomas, or Nick at the 40 Bowler. We're also on Instagram under those pseudonyms, and we're on Twitter and Facebook. Or you can inbox the show. So we're going to say night for this evening. So I'm going to say bye.
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 And we'll hopefully see you all again next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.